It is a very subjective and debatable statement when people say that animals are lesser and human beings are more ascended, and it's a
Hmm.
there's something better that we have to do in life.
Hmm.
When you look at animals, they don't have the karmic cycle that we do.
It's true.
See, the karmas that we're paying off are primarily because there is anger, there is guilt, there is hurt, and there is emotional pain.
Hmm.
Animals don't feel emotional pain. So when someone feels that my dog or my cat is depressed, maybe they're healing something in you or they're just mirroring your energy.
Mm.
That is the perspective that you may want to look at, you know.
Hmm. Hello and welcome to the Soul Awakening podcast. I'm your host, Kat Fowler. And if you are new here, welcome to the show. And if you are returning, welcome back. I always love to see you here. So today's show is all about animal communication. And it's a topic very near and dear to my heart. It's something that I've been wanting to share for a very long time. And I was just looking for the right person because I feel like the animals really need their voice to come through. And we have a lot of misconceptions around, I think, their role in our lives and how things should work with them. And I felt that Aleesha, who I have on the show today, was the perfect person because she truly sees the ascended and very beautiful spiritual aspects of all of the animals that she works with, and she's here to share that. So, before we get started with the interview, also for those of you that are newer, we are now offering these interviews on YouTube so you can watch them, which is exciting. So, you can go to youtube.com/, at and then my name, cat underscore Fowler, youtube.com/, cat underscore Fowler. And then that's where you can watch all of the interviews coming out with me and the guests, and if that's something you'd like to do. Otherwise, we're available where all podcasts are found, so you can listen there. So before we get started, I will read Aleesha's bio. This is what she sent to me. I have been an animal communicator for over a decade. Thanks to my animals at home, I'm a more aware human. My journey now has expertise in moksha pot readings, hypnotherapy, inner child healing, and ancestral healings as well. So this interview is primarily about animal communication, and it was one of my favorites, and I hope that you enjoy it as well. So sit back, enjoy, and I will see you at the end of the show. All right. Hi, Aleesha. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. I'm so excited to talk to you. It's been a long time that we've kind of
Hello.
planned this. Yeah, so I'm really happy to be here and to have you here with us and all the way from India.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I am super excited too. And so are all the animals in my house.
I love that. It's so funny. Whenever I do session work, a lot of times when I'm doing Akashic readings, people's pets, they're like, my dog will not. He just wants to be here. He wants to be in the energy, or their cat will like sit in front of them or be by the screen. And it's just funny. My dog right now is under my desk. That's how he sits. Every time I do a recording, he sleeps under the desk. So, so you have a lot of animals, right?
I do. I have two dogs and seven cats. There was a time when we had 24 of them in the house, but a few of them passed away.
Oh my
A
God.
few of them are with my sister in Canada, and I still have seven cats and two dogs. So yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's a lot of animals. Well, I mean, very fitting for what you do. So, I read your bio, but can you describe a little bit of your work with animals and what exactly it is that you do when it comes to animal communication?
Primarily, I work with all sorts of cases, apart from lost cases. So when it comes to animal communication, take it as a language. Like you and me are talking through a language right now. Animals primarily communicate through telepathy. That's their language. In fact, when you speak to most animal parents, you will realize that they know exactly at a point what is it that their animal needs. Is it food? Is it love? Is it water? Because they have been sending these telepathic messages, but because we're not aware such a language exists, we feel that, okay, because we've been living together for so long, we know each other. How do you know each other?
Mm-hmm.
It's only
Mm-hmm.
you who's been talking to your animal verbally or showing, expressing love, but how's your animal talking to you through telepathy?
Mm-hmm.
So I come in when humans want to know how their animals doing health-wise, if there is any changes in the house, like there's a new family member or a big movement, the entire family is going to move to a different country or a city. Sometimes when there is an older animal at home and we bring in a new one and
Mm-hmm.
suddenly the dynamics change. That is also another reason when animal communication can help.
Mm-hmm.
The difficult cases are when animals are ailing and the human just wants to know what is it in the last days that their animal needs, you know. And then when they cross over, this is something that I believe all our animals, they become our guides, our spirit guides. Just like we have angels as
Mm-hmm.
guides, we also have animal spirits and our own animals who become our guides. I have had such profound, life-changing messages when I communicate with animals in the heavens. It's as though now they are able to observe their human and the entire life, their relationships, work through a different realm, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So
You know,
it's
it's
it's beautiful.
interesting that you're saying that because, well, first off, I really wanted to have you on because I did a session with you for my dog, and my dog is older. He's 11. And so it was for exactly that. I also, I do psychic work and things like that. But when you are concerned about your pet and you're very emotional over it, or worried or afraid, or you just love something so much, it can be difficult to get a clear read, because then you're like in the way of your own accuracy because of your emotional attachment to whatever it is that you need to find out. So I remember that's why I don't even know how I found you. I think I found you on Instagram and I loved everything that you were saying. I felt like you were really speaking for the animals. And what was shocking to me about our reading was how much my dog knows about my life and what's about to occur more than I did. And I was like, what? This is crazy. Because like I can find things out when I go in my records, but I felt like I'm like, how does my dog know more than me? And that to me really solidified because you were right and you didn't know me at all. And you were saying things about, things that I've been through in the past that my dog has been through with me. And and so I'm like, wow, so this like being that is my pet is infinitely connected to the same source energy on a very high level plane. More than I could imagine. More than I could imagine. I knew we were from similar places soul wise. I didn't know that animals had the capability of also looking into basically the records, into the etheric realms, and seeing the past and seeing the future and things like that the same way we can. So that to me was what I loved so much about our session. And so I know you were saying that they communicate through telepathy. So, what exactly does that look like? And how did you learn that? And how did you start to strengthen your connection with animals? Um, and is it like mainly because obviously they don't speak English, but we've seen like I've seen online, someone will adopt a dog from a shelter and they don't listen to them. And then all of a sudden they start speaking Spanish and the dog knows everything that they're saying, right? So I know like they kind of understand our language but that their language is primarily visual, I think. So, how does that work for you when you're working in a session or just communicating with your own animals? Like, how do you see it? How does it feel? And how did you get into this work?
Wow, that's such a beautiful question. How did I get into this work? So it's when I used to be, by the way, a very scared of animals kind of a human being. Uh,
Wow.
I've never had dogs, cats ever. There is no interaction that has ever happened until my college, high
Wow.
school, what we call it. Yes.
Wow.
But one fine day, my sister just adopted a dog, and then what is it that I could do? I have to make peace with the dog and with everybody. That's when I realized that, okay, this is an interesting being in the house. Let's see how he works. It's only when we adopted another dog and they started to have a fight. A fight which somehow from a family of five human beings only I could stop. And I
Mm,
never understood that. How is it that instinctively I'm just able to stop the fight and they listen to me? And then this is about 13, 14 years ago, and we reached out to a communicator, and I just felt this is going to be another facade, and I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think it works. The skeptic that I was. Then she said that he's just mirroring two people in the house, and he was right.
Mm, mhm, mhm,
Yes, we were, fighting. Two of us in the family had extreme situations, and the dogs were just mirroring that. When we stopped fighting, we calmed down. The dogs also became friends with each other.
mm,
It was almost instantly.
mhm,
Then is when I started training into animal communication. It's been about 12 years now. I've been doing it. Um, when we start initially communicating with an animal, you receive thoughts, images, voice. Some people even, they're able to see images of their own past, of their own life, something that you must have come across on social media. It's only with practice, of course, you realize how to put everything together and make sense of it.
mhm,
The reason animals understand all kinds of language is because every single language, every word has an energy. In Hindi, we call it urja.
mhm,
It's not the words that they're understanding, but it's the energy that they understand, the intention that they understand. Because just like light, energy travels faster than our words. Also.
mhm.
Even before I start talking, the images in my mind start talking to my dog, because I have
Right.
a certain idea of what I'm going to tell him now, what kind of a command is it going to be, or what's going on in my life. And it's almost as though they're seeing us, viewing our life, just sitting there stable.
Mhm,
And I always like to ask people this question, the skeptics, the kinds that I used to be. What do you think your animal does all day? Apart from acting cute, eating, and drinking, are you telling me there is nothing else that they do? How
mhm,
is that possible? This is what they do. All of them have a beautiful life purpose. Some of them are healers. Some of them are just there to guide. A few of them are guards, quite literally, where they become physically protective for their human being. It depends. Every single animal comes either for one person in the family or for the entire family.
mm. So I'm curious with the different purposes, do you find that cats versus dogs have a different purpose like that? Because I do feel like, yes, there's certain dogs that are meant primarily to be guard dogs, but then there are, and they're bred for that, and they're like, that's their mission. But I feel cats in general, and there can be very friendly ones, ones that are, a little bit more intense. Um, they are like animal guardians. They are like spirit realm guardians, and they are clairvoyant alien little beings in a furry body that are like can see beyond dimensions, and they're like protectors of that realm. But I want to know what you see from all of your work with the different types of animals that you do.
Um, Species wise, are they all different? And does that define their life purpose? I don't think so, so much, apart from
Mm.
physically guarding the animal, although some cats are excellent in doing that also. Uh,
Mhm.
you know, in fact, in my own house, when my sister was due for my nephew, one of our cats would not let anybody around her.
Mhm.
Nobody. And just when he was delivered, everything was fine, making peace, and she was just sleep around him. But yes, it is true. In fact, I call cats half in, half out animals because there are times when they're quite literally dealing with spirits, energies around us, which we don't know of.
Mhm.
Humans who are um, humans who are either, I wouldn't say weak, but unaware of their energy space. And sometimes it becomes a crowd. You
Mhm.
may see just one person walking in, but a cat or a dog sees the crowd that's walking with them in the
Yeah.
form of spirits or energies. Cats often come into our life to heal that spirit.
Mm.
Often. And you will see that cats also absorb a lot of energy. So I
Yes.
suggest to people who have cats, it's good to have your own chanting rituals or cleansing rituals. Dogs, on the other hand, are guardians of our spirit as well as guardians of our emotions. They understand emotions beautifully well.
Mhm.
Um, and they react to it. It's almost as though you will feel it's a mirror that you're seeing. Exactly how you're feeling is how your dog is feeling.
Hmm.
And it may sound strange, but sometimes when we're not focused on our appetite, the dogs stop eating.
It's not
Now you're
strange.
doing it unconsciously,
Yeah.
so that happens.
Yeah, yeah. No, I remember when we did our session, that's what you were saying. You're like, he is there for your emotional balance. I was like, well, that makes perfect sense with everything in my life over the last decade that he's, seen me through. Um, so I'm curious within, so I come from a yoga tradition and I firmly believe in yoga philosophy and everything that comes with it. Um, and I know that they have different views on animals having souls. And especially in like India, I know that that's very different. And in a lot of religions, like around the world, they really sometimes are like, no, animals don't have any souls, this and that. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I'd love to see what you think around if animals have souls, if you feel that they can fluctuate between incarnating as a human back to animal, back to human. And because I know in a lot of yogic traditions, a lot of ashrams, things like that, you know, and I agree with the fact that they believe that having a human body is such a privilege because we have the ability to really see God within and become enlightened in this physical form. And animals don't necessarily have that opportunity. But I do feel though that sometimes the animals, the souls that come into the animals are just as capable, maybe not of reaching enlightenment in that body, but as the same as the soul of their owner or the people around them. So I'm curious how you see that and how you see reincarnation because you work with pets that have passed and things like that with your work.
This far, the animals I have spoken to, who are in the heavens, none of them have said that, yes, I will be reincarnating as a human being, or even if I will be coming back to the same family again, next year or next month. That does not happen so fast. That is
Mhm.
one. And I'm deeply spiritual, of course, but religious at the same time. I'm a Hindu, so
Mhm.
we're kind of taught about Nandi, who is Shiva's Nandi, Lord Shiva's Nandi, and every single god and goddess, in my opinion, as far as I can backtrack, they have an animal as their vehicle.
Mhm.
It is a very subjective and debatable statement when people say that animals are lesser and human beings are more ascended, and it's
Mhm.
there's something better that we have to do in life.
Mhm.
When you look at animals, they don't have the karmic cycle that we do.
It's true.
See, the karmas that we're paying off are primarily because there is anger, there is guilt, there is hurt, and there is emotional pain.
Mhm.
Animals don't feel emotional pain. So when someone feels that my dog or my cat is depressed, maybe they're healing something in you or they're just mirroring your energy.
Mm.
That is the perspective that you may want to look at, you know.
Mhm.
Why would they not reincarnate as human beings? Because there is no karmic cycle. There is no baggage that they're carrying. A dog or a cat does not have the memory that we do.
Mhm.
All the different form of karmas that we perform as a human being are performed so that we can finally achieve enlightenment or moksha, like we call in Hindi.
Mhm.
Animals are there. That's how they are born. That's how they are able to heal their surroundings. They're human beings.
Mhm.
And I always like to give this example to people that when you are walking on a deserted road, maybe it's 2 o'clock in the night, whom would you be okay following you? A dog? Like in India, we have a lot of streeties.
Mhm.
Uh, would you be okay with a dog following you, or are you going to be okay with a full grown up man or a woman following you? You are definitely going to feel instantly safe when there's an animal following you, and okay, fine, this means no harm to me. That's the divinity that they carry. And it's very natural. They don't have to do anything. An animal can be as old as 10 years or 15 years, an extremely senior animal, and will still have such, uh, I wouldn't say cuteness, I mean, they're all born like that, but innocence, the childlike innocence, which you
Right.
will only find either in a Siddha yogi or in a child, in human
Mhm.
beings. But an
Mhm.
animal is like that through and through.
Hmm.
That is because there is no baggage of yesterday and there is no worry of tomorrow. So how are then they entangled in the karmic cycle? They are not. And if they're not entangled in the karmic cycle, why would they take a birth as a human being? There is nothing to pay off.
Hmm.
You know,
Well, it's
that's
interesting.
what I feel.
Yeah, when I'm thinking about that, because within my work in the Akashic Records, I will see when somebody has issues with animals or an allergy to something, whether it's an animal or even like a food or a plant or whatever, usually it is from something from a past life where something didn't go right, whether the human was abusive to animals and now in this life, that's why they got attacked or, whatever. Sometimes there's everybody's situation is different. But I do find that there is sometimes this karmic connection between what happens with people, humans, and then their relation to animals in this lifetime. And so I'm curious, like, when I'm sure you've worked maybe with people that have had aggressive animals or you've probably maybe seen that on your own for untrained animals that maybe are neglected or abused. What's happening in those cases?
I had an aggressive dog. That's how
Okay.
my love for animals started. And I was the only one he would bite. There was
Oh my
once
gosh.
when he had bit me to an extent where my pinky finger was almost going to, hang by a thread. It was bleeding profusely, and I didn't know what to do because I went into
Oh
a
my God.
frozen state.
Yeah. Yeah.
Been in a family extremely protected by my elder sisters and everybody older. This was a shock to me.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
when that happened, I realized there is something wrong. That it is not possible that out of five human beings, I am the only target
Right.
for no reason. You know,
Right,
it's
right,
only
right.
when that animal communication session happened and I realized there is something inside of me which is so aggressive. I need to change that. He's
Mm,
only trying to put my attention to, okay, Aleesha, this is something which is the block for you. You release it and you see what happens with your life. And I'm getting goosebumps as I say this.
yeah, that's
Um,
powerful. That's powerful.
so when I worked on that anger is when I realized that how that anger was actually blocking my progress, my interaction with people.
Mm,
And when that got dropped is when I realized what is my true calling. What is it
mm,
that I need to do in my life? So for aggressive pets, um, or any animal who's aggressive towards a human being, it is the human being who needs to reflect. I know
mm.
we've turned it totally around, and it's the animal who needs to be trained, punished, confined, crate, or whatever it is that you call it.
Right, right.
How about stopping and realizing out of so many humans available, why is the attack only on you?
Because I think some humans that might hear this, because in America there's such a big problem with animals being in shelters and people that like they just don't know how to work with their animals and then they just, give them away. So if someone's listening and let's just say they adopted a dog from a shelter or a cat and this dog or cat is just constantly attacking them, right? And then they're thinking, well, it's not me, it's an aggressive dog from the shelter. Would you say to them, no, but it is you, right? Because ultimately, like it's maybe some mirroring something in you. Otherwise, there wouldn't be that connection of resonant frequencies.
With a lot of love and affection, I would tell them, yes, that it is you.
Mm,
And if you can only be brutally honest to yourself and ask yourself, how am I as a human being? What is it that I'm doing? Sometimes it's not always that it's the anger that they're reflecting, but it's also inertia. A
mm,
human being has stopped reacting, no boundaries. It's as though, you can do in my life anything, walk all over me, and I'm not going to retaliate because that rebuttal is not available. That animal then is in your life to shake you up that, okay, now I'm doing this to you. Can you
mm,
react? Can you activate that reaction? Feel instead of being numb. It's a lot of inner reflection that can happen with, having a challenging animal at home. So if only we, instead of giving it away, because then we're running again from that responsibility.
mm,
You have an aggressive animal. Let's see how we can work around with this animal. Also, asking the animal, what is it that you need? Is this situation, is this location where you are, is it okay for you? Are you alone, for a very long time? Or is it that I am kind of burdening too much of love on you. What is it that you want to communicate? It is as though if you and I have to talk to each other and you feel there's something wrong with me, you
Mm,
would rather want to ask me that, Aleesha, what is it? I think there's something wrong, instead of assuming that I think this is what is wrong with her and I should
mhm.
totally cancel her from my life, because that is going on. Not only with animals, we're doing that with human beings also.
Right.
Hence the isolation, hence feeling the burnout.
Mm, that's so true. I mean, well, I loved what you were saying, and it reminds me so much of Caesar Milan. I don't know if you've heard of him, like the dog whisperer. He's like very famous.
Yeah, oh, I love his work.
I
Beautiful.
love his work. I think he's actually just like basically a shaman that's acting like he's just an animal trainer, but I think he's really a shaman because the way he can connect with their energy. And every episode, I used to watch that show religiously. He's basically like the person comes in, they're like, my dog can't, I can't fix the situation. I have no idea what's going on. And it's always the human. He's always like, okay, I'm going to rehabilitate the human and work with the human and teach them how to have the confidence they need for fearful dogs or, whatever it is like that we're talking about, or aggression, whatever it may be. And it's really an energetic thing. It's like an energetic thing that he's trying to help the human with, because that is how it connects with the animal. So it's your philosophy is very similar. So that's why I love that. And that's definitely why we connected. And I've been to several animal communicators. And I really loved everything that you say and that you believe about them, because I think it comes from experience from what you've seen. And also, I know you were saying, well, actually, you're talking about how each of the Hindu gods have their own like animal, their own like spirit animals. So like Durga
Yes.
has her tiger, Ganesha has his mouse, and so like everyone has their
Mouse.
animals. Yeah. And so I'm wondering, do you feel that all humans have their animals in spirit, like their totem spirit animal that's with them their whole life? Because that is something that from my understanding, and I have taken some animal communication courses in the past, is like we have our totem spirit animal that's always with us, and then we have other spirit animals that come in as guides and helpers, and then we have the physical pets and animals in our lives that come in around us. So, what's your opinion on that? Like either having a lifelong spirit animal, or totems, or just power animals that come in and out of our experience.
Absolutely. All of us are born with, just like we're born with a spirit guide, we're born with a guardian angel, like we say, or
Hmm.
an ancestor who's always protecting us in their lineage. We're also born with a spirit animal.
Hmm.
And you will realize when you speak to people, even those who are not animal lovers, for that matter, there will be an animal that attracts them, that catches their attention immediately. It could be something as beautiful and small as a butterfly, but there will be an animal that catches their attention.
Hmm.
And every time they see a video, a picture, or maybe they cross paths with this animal, everything else takes a backseat for a few seconds, and my focus is only on that particular animal. This is also true for people who are scared of a particular species.
Mm.
When we feel a certain kind of trigger with the existence of an animal, see, every animal has a message. And now I'm talking about the animals outside our house.
Yes.
You take an example of a house lizard. Like in India, we have so many of them. And there are people who are scared of these house lizards for no reason, while they are in their conscious mind aware it's just going to find some food and leave.
Hmm.
Nothing to do with you. That trigger, as far as it's only okay, I'm a little scared, fine. But if it creates trauma in you, something deeper, it's shaking you, it has a message. So
Mm.
it's a good time to pause and ask, what is your purpose? And you don't have to be an animal communicator for this, because when you backtrack that fear, you will go back to a space inside your own self when you blocked a message. And when
Hmm.
you tap into that message is when you will realize that, okay, maybe this animal can be a guide to me. Spirit animals also come in our dreams.
Hmm.
There are times when people reach out to me and say that, I don't like animals, but I keep having dreams of snakes, or I have, dreams of dragons. What is this going on? I don't understand that.
Mm.
They have a message. instead of feeling that they're trying to intrude in your world, how about connecting with their world?
Hmm.
Because it is very important for us to remember that animals and everything in nature has been here much before we were here. We've been here only for 6,000 years. That's the
Hmm.
maximum we can backtrack human existence.
Hmm.
But we're all aware of a world where we had dinosaurs, and that is so much more deeper. So it is also a good thing to remember that hence what existed before us will exist after us. So of course it is our guide.
Can I ask personally, if you want to share, what is your spirit animal?
So for me, I have had this love for butterflies a lot. In fact, when we were talking about this, I could only think of butterflies. It just comes to me. Ever since I was little, I used to love to paint, and the only thing I would paint is either a butterfly, different kinds of them, and I'm just trying to figure out, okay, now how can it look?
Hmm.
All my creativity would be right there. And even today, if I have a butterfly around me, the world stops, and I just want to connect with its energy. So yeah, and now when I look at it, a lot in my life has changed, like how a butterfly transitions.
Mm.
When I lost my father, last year I lost my sister. But there is a different form of transition that animals teach you. And every loss then kind of becomes a milestone in your life that, okay,
Mm.
now what?
Hmm.
How do you get out of this?
Right. It's a
So keep reminding
metamorphosis.
myself that's my spirit animal, so it's okay. What's happening in my life?
Totally. Well, mine, as you can see, is the jaguar.
Oh, beautiful.
And I always, and it's funny because as when I was a baby, my parents' family friend got a gift for me, which was a huge mural of a jaguar in a jungle, which was over my crib, my whole
That.
like being a
Wow.
baby. And I always remember that. And then as I started to really unlock things in my dreams, I would see jaguars, like my jaguar all the time. And so I think, yeah, it's just, it is, that's how I feel. That's how I feel with jaguars as you feel with butterflies, with the life lessons and the things that go on. And so that's why I decided to wear this shirt. I was like, let's,
How
we're talking
beautiful.
about animals. Let me get into character here. And so I'm wondering when you were talking about the animals that can scare you, like there are certain animals that are universally kind of scary to people, like
Yes.
spiders, right? Spiders,
Yes.
alligators, snakes. And yes, it's because, we have ancestors scientifically and the DNA of how they can be poisonous and this and that. And so
Yes.
I understand there's the ancestral, like the knowledge that comes down, and it's just our body reacting. But then there is also like having a deep, deep fear of like spiders, let's say. So why do you think that is? I have my theories and they go out there as to why I think the collective is all really scared of spiders. But I'd love to know yours first, and then I can maybe they align. I'd love to see.
So when you look at a spider,
Hmm.
what is it that you see? It's very important to notice the details of every animal.
Hmm.
When you look at a spider, you see it starts with a very small corner when it starts to build its house. Let's call it the house. We call it the web, but it's their
Hmm.
house.
Hmm.
Starts with a very small corner, and every single day you will realize it's working towards its goal and is working in your presence, is not scared of the human beings present. Most of the other animals will either try to attack us or they will leave because they feel threatened. A spider has nothing of that sort. Unless we attack the spider, it'll leave. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's going to do its job very well.
Mm.
That is how you build a life. It's building a life in presence of all the distractions and threats that is possible. In fact, I feel a spider is the most comfortable animal. It does not run. It does not run away. No matter what happens, whoever is present in their surrounding, it's still going to do its job. The
Mm.
kind of precision and dedication a spider can teach us.
Mm.
But then our focus is not on what the spider is doing and what we can learn, but on, okay, it's creepy, it's this, it's that, because
Yeah.
it's easier to put it on the animal versus Pausing and asking myself, what about their dedication and precision is so irritating for me?
Mm.
You know, that can be a beautiful question to ask.
Totally. I remember once in one of the classes I did for animal communication when we had to tune into just the general animal. Like once one was a hawk, one like it was all these different animals at different times. And then one week we had an alligator. And I remember being like, no, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't think so. And then when I finally tuned in, the whole energy was really around I'm so misunderstood. Like I'm just like I'm nurturing, I'm just like everyone else, but I'm completely misunderstood for my appearance. And I felt like wow, like I almost had all these layers of things that I felt towards this animal without really getting to connect to the energy itself.
Absolutely. It's just imagine the existence of another being triggers.
Mm-hmm.
How is that even
Mm-hmm.
possible?
Mm-hmm.
But then it is.
It's true. But also like, and this might take us on a tangent, but so there's a woman named Dolores Cannon. She passed, and she did a lot of work. Are you familiar with her work? Like she does quantum hypnosis and all these things, and she did a lot of channeled work through
I
her.
missed the name.
Oh,
Sorry.
Dolores Cannon. It's
Of course,
okay.
yes. Oh my God.
Okay, okay. I know she's
Love.
amazing. She's amazing. And but her books, I don't know if you ever read any of her books. They're like they go out there. They like she really talks about how as humanity we're seeded from outer consciousness and whatnot. And basically from her philosophy and just other things that I've learned, studied, listened to, a lot of people believe that every animal species here on Earth is basically a smaller replica of a different version of that species off Earth that maybe has a higher consciousness. So, for example, dolphins, or like a lot of people believe in a star system called Lyra, where there are bipedal, there are animals, lion beings that are basically human, but with like a lion body, walking on two legs, having very advanced consciousness, and that these people were one of the main star lineages that seeded this solar system matrix that we're in. I know this is out there, but I'm wondering if like you feel that way, that every species of animal that's here inhabiting the earth actually does have like a parent ascended consciousness, maybe off earth.
I feel the animals that we see around us are as ascended as, their parent consciousness would be.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
only, see, that's my opinion. The
Mm-hmm.
only reason why we would want to say that, oh, this is still a being in progress, or it's still a smaller or a little version of the consciousness is because we cannot handle a small animal being of that grand consciousness. Human beings, we have convinced ourselves that we are the apex species, we're the creators, we're the destroyers. So then now we go ahead and we label that, hey, you know what? A cat here is actually just 1% of what it would be in a different dimension where its parent consciousness is. It is as though saying that I inside my, the soul that I have is just
Mm-hmm.
one fraction of consciousness. And there is no way that I can become an enlightened being in this lifetime because my whole other half is in some other planet. And only when I travel there is when I am going to become whole. That need to reject what is available and to tap into that energy and the quest for finding the bigger, the better is never ending for human beings. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when I speak to animals, like just this morning, I spoke to an animal who's in the heavens. Beautiful black dog cat. Oh my God. And she was adopted by someone, a rescuer. The family was totally neglecting this animal, was there with this human being only for 2 days, and she passed on.
Wow.
That is it. The rescuer, the adopter had her only for 2 days, and then the animal just left. And she had such a powerful message to say that now that I have left, you will see your life on a roll. I have taken something very big out
Wow.
of your system. And then I asked her with a lot of it's strange, you know. And I
Hmm.
said, I know you're grieving, I know you're missing the animal, but I really have to ask this. Are you feeling like a big release?
Mm.
And then she said, yes, actually. If this animal would have been alive, I wouldn't have moved where I want to move now.
Wow.
So I truly think that if we tap into the consciousness of the animals we have around us, they are as grand as something that exists in a different dimension.
So let's talk about that in particular because I know I was basically raised almost Hindu in a way, which is like so I know all the traditions and everything. And my mom always really told me that black animals in particular are there to take things for you. They
Yes.
take on the energy for you. But however, there is a lot of superstition around the world about black cats, not really black dogs, but black cats. And unfortunately, I do know that within animal shelters, at least within the United States, they are the hardest to adopt. Like they're the biggest percentage of animals that stay in the shelters tend to have the black fur. So I'm wondering, like, on an energetic level, obviously the color black absorbs all energies, right? The white reflects all energies. So what is going on there when there is an animal in your life, like a black cat, a black dog, karmically, and their role? And why would an animal choose to do that?
It is the most beautiful question. It's my favorite question because I also have two black animals.
Mm,
All my animals are adopted and they came to us at different times in our life. It is true that they absorb a lot of energy, while all the other animals do as well. But with black animals, primarily their purpose is to absorb the energy that does not work for their human.
hmm
And they may go to the extent of making themselves sick,
hmm
ill. It may affect their health, it will attack their health, but they'll still keep doing it. Um, I truly feel when a black animal shows up in our life, there is an energy around you that has been bothering you or your family. And this animal is to really has come to your life to release that energy. Now you can take a year, 2 years, or 20 years for that to happen. But as soon as you become aware of there was something wrong with me when this animal came into my life, and after a few years, I see there is a shift. What is that shift? What is it that you feel? I have communicated with countless black animals, and I'm yet to meet a human being who says that I used to have sound sleep and I used to sleep really well before my black animal came into my life. All of them have said that no, actually, my sleep has improved now. I used to have scary, vivid dreams, or I used to feel like a shadow, something following me. The superstition I feel again,
hmm
it's the need to create, everything should be in our control, to create more control in the world. We don't
mm
understand animals, especially black animals, because they are highly intuitive, and people who live with black animals will see that they are also unpredictable, not in a pseudo aggressive way,
hmm
but there is something happening which I'm not able to tap into.
hmm
And because I don't understand that energy, okay, this is bad omen, so this should stay out of my house. But the
mm
truth is, they are energy absorbers. And when you talk about Kal Bhairav, one of the avatars of Lord Shiva, he has a black dog. The image of Kal Bhairav has a black dog. How can that black animal then be a bad omen or something to bring bad luck in our life?
Yeah, I because there's so many, especially around black cats, there's like many different cultural superstitions. Some cultures say on the basis that they're not your pet and you're just out in the street and then you're walking and then one crosses right in front of you. So some people say, okay, that's very bad luck, like whatever. And then other people say, whatever you were about to do, don't. Like if you were going to go somewhere and make some decision, that's the universe trying to tell you, hey, stop. And then other cultures actually believe it could be a good luck, like a sign of good luck. So what are your thoughts on that age-old question of like when a black cat crosses your path?
So, in my grandmother's generation, they used to feel that black animals, especially black cats, are able to sense something wrong or something that is not going to be in their favor, in the community's favor, from a very far distance.
Mm,
And it would run in the opposite direction in order to kind of alarm the community. Of course, if there's someone crossing by, the cat is going to, kind of ignore their presence and still go and run and inform more cats and dogs because that's how animals communicate through
hmm
images. They also have their own telepathic network, and they kind of, an alarm goes off when there is danger. That is how we always saw a black cat only, appearing out of nowhere. That's
hmm
because it's an animal who is extremely sensitive to energy shifts, to anything which is climate related or anything which is like a natural disaster. It is literally that an alarm goes off in their system.
hmm
Every time when, we live in Mumbai and we usually have the apartment kind of a setup here. So every time when there is a fight very far away and I can faintly hear it, my black cat will be all up and just gazing at that different direction. So
hmm
I know, okay, it's trying to communicate with a different world now, and the purpose is no more right now with me.
hmm
That's
hmm
how protective they are.
Totally. I'd love that you brought up how animals communicate with each other. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, and how, I always say that like whenever my dog, if I take him to the vet and there's all these other dogs there that are barking in the rooms that I'm like, he's hearing what they're saying. That's why he doesn't really like it here because all the other dogs are like, hey, I don't want to be here. Even though they're all we hear is barks, I know that they're like talking with each other. So do you believe that they can like, even though they vocalize a meow or a bark or, any kind of animal sound, that they are communicating in their own language? And is it primarily like vocalizations that they are actually communicating with, or is it also telepathic? Because there's this thing I saw recently. They're saying that AI might be able to interpret your cat's language for you within a few years, which is crazy. So I'm like, okay, so maybe there is something to the vocalizations, the different, because having my dog for so long, I can tell when he has a play bark, a growl, like an angry bark at someone outside, or a happy bark if he sees somebody that he loves. And so I can interpret that, but I do feel like they communicate on a much deeper level interspecies in between the two. And I'm sure like cats and dogs and all animals together. So yeah, if you can explain that a little bit.
Of course. So, you know how we have a collective conscious network, human
hmm
beings, and I'll give you an example. It is said that if more than 100 people, like it could be 101 also, meditate at a particular place at the same time together as a group, they can quite literally cleanse that environment up to a certain range and also invite new healing energies to that earth. The same kind of network is there amongst animals also. When
mm
they exist in their own group, there is a lot of healing that's happening within them, around the atmosphere, for the forest. It's only when they are separated. And right now, when you see all animals are going through a wave of separation.
mm
Not many human beings are okay of having more animals at home. Most of us
mm
are. It's also affordability, it's
Yeah.
time, and there is so much, there's so much grief that you feel when they leave.
hmm
It's also that why we don't have more than one animal at home. But if we would have an entire network of animal at home physically, you will realize that their world is totally different and they are communicating with each other. Of course, the vocalization is a big part of their communication, but when they are in an atmosphere like a vet or in a park or a dog party, wherever, most of the animals are only using their vocals. They are not using their telepathic network because that is on freeze. Animals can go on freeze in an instant. Happens with animals who are lost also. The sense of
Oh.
smell is frozen.
Mm.
They don't want to then go by their senses. They try to understand what the path looks like. The sense of smell is just frozen. Is why they're not able to find their way back home. But the sense of sound becomes heightened. They are able to hear voices. Is why I tell people that just go around and call your dog or call your cat as you're going to give them food. That sense of sound is always active in animals. Is how you will realize that when they're waiting for their turn for a shot or something at the doctor,
Mm,
all of them are talking in a different tone, and it looks like they're kind of interacting with each other.
yes.
But a telepathic network is formed when they feel they are in a group. They are clan. They are people.
And do you feel like for marine animals like dolphins, whales, I feel they have a connection around the whole earth. I feel like whether they're together in pods or separate, I feel like whales in particular, dolphins, they are like a grid. They create like a grid of consciousness and holding the consciousness of our planet, even if they're separate. How do you feel about those particular animals?
Any animal that's outside our house has a much bigger purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Even
Mm-hmm.
the ones that you see out on the streets, I'll take an example of India where we have stray dogs and stray
Mm-hmm.
cats. They have a community purpose. So there are times when rescuers reach out to me and they just want to ask, how's this dog doing? I kind of take care of this one. And that's when the dog says that, yes, I love you a lot. Da, 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 da. And I also have a life purpose with this person, and this entire community.
Mm.
The marine life, they have a beautiful purpose for the entire ecosystem. It
Yes,
is
yeah.
not only restricted to their own self, is why the disconnect with the human species. You will see that dolphins are friends with all human beings who are good to them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't choose, unlike the animals at home, because the ones at home have chosen a person as their life purpose. The ones outside in the wild, the marine animals, have a beautiful purpose which is for the entire ecosystem, the environment, is how they are able to maintain stability also.
So what goes into a pet, an animal choosing to be with a human? What goes into that?
So there are a couple of things. You could have a past life connect with them when an animal has been with you in multiple lifetimes, and they will keep coming back to you as your dog or your cat because that's how they want to be. It is more a soulmate connection that they may have with you.
Hmm.
Some animals are sent by our ancestors.
Mm,
When an ancestor who is very strong in your lineage realizes that, okay, this child of mine is stuck, an animal can truly help. That's how my sister got a dog. Nobody in our family, extended family, has ever had an animal inside their house. We've
wow.
always fed animals outside. Nobody
Yeah.
has an animal inside. We're literally the first generation.
Wow.
So it's as though there was some strength that was required inside of us, which we didn't have, and a dog just walked into our life. So it truly depends. It is also life changing when we realize, why is this animal in my life? What is it that they're trying to teach me? Because it is a game changer. You then no more fight with their behaviors, with everything that makes you feel off about them. You try
Mm,
to work with it. And as you work with it, you see that you are growing and they're changing.
mm. And what do you feel about mythical animals, like animals that have are quote unquote not real, but they're very alive in the collective consciousness, like dragons, like a Pegasus, the horse with the wings, or unicorns, things like that.
They're all spirit guides in
Yes,
different
yes.
forms. So when you tap into their energy, you realize they're able to show you the world from a different perspective. When you tap into a dragon's energy and you try to have a telepathic conversation with a dragon as a spirit, see, you can't communicate with a particular dragon because there is no A, B, C. There are no names for mythical animals, even for wild animals for that matter. Hence, we connect with their soul, the spirit of the entire species,
Hmm.
dragon as a species.
Hmm.
When you connect with that species, it's a different conversation altogether because there is so much insight. Sometimes I feel these sessions that I do are therapy for me, because every time I end up learning far more from an animal. A unicorn is a signal, for a child to remain, to have that childness in them even when they grow up.
Mm,
So no matter how old we are, everybody gets attracted to a unicorn. So
Mm,
that childlike personality, it keeps us alive. Um, the same way, when you they have a very godly demeanor.
mhm,
When you look at any god, any power that you believe in, and if there is an image that is created by us, you will see that there is some kind of childlike innocence in them. That's the same you will find in mythical animals also, which is so pure.
mm. And can you dive into, so when you do sessions, like how does that work? Because I know you use a picture. And so
Yes.
how does that work where you're communicating with someone's pet? How's that conversation like? And is it similar to when they cross? Is it almost the same? Is there a difference that you feel in the energy?
So, yes, I do use a picture, but in some cases there is no picture that's available, so that is fine. I
Hmm.
would then take basic details of how did the animal look and what's their age, gender, and all of that. With animals who are on Earth with us, the communication session is slightly different because the questions are more about, are you comfortable? Do you like the food that's given to you? About their well-being and what is the human being contributing in your life. So
Hmm.
questions like, do you need anything from the human being? Is there an emotional message you want to share in terms of their growth, their work? When I communicate with animals in the heavens, so I have my own ritual that I do, of grounding, shielding, and all of that.
Hmm.
It's not the animal's energy that I'm shielding myself from, but it's more of the human being's energy and anything that could be around them,
Yeah.
you know,
No, I
because
get
no
it.
animal is ever going to harm us.
Hmm. Hmm.
uh, that conversation is with their soul. Now, there are no questions about how are you feeling? Are you comfortable? What about the food? What about the water? It's more about what are you doing? Where are you now? And very soulful questions like, will you come back to me in this lifetime? What was
Mm.
your life purpose? Were you able to fulfill it? You know? And is there anything that you would like me to do in your memory? And there are times when animals have asked for beautiful gestures, and the human beings have gone ahead and fulfilled it. So life comes a full circle when I do sessions for animals in the heavens, or whatever they call it.
I'm sure that you get this question a lot too, just from owners that are concerned. But how do you respond when people ask, like, about if they know when they're going to pass or not? Is that something that should be a mystery for everybody
That
involved?
is supposed to be a mystery. I don't
Mm,
ask that question. I have this
mm,
rule that I will not ask about a
mm,
death date. Um, as healers, of course, we have done so much spiritual work. We are now aware life and death are two very sacred contracts.
mm,
When you start asking those questions, again, you're operating out of a need of control. So
mm,
I
mhm,
want to keep myself prepared the day when you will leave.
mm,
But death is inevitable and it is also very sacred to every soul, even the
mhm,
animals.
mhm.
So, yeah, that's a question I never ask.
And do you find that, I mean, so this might be culturally influenced, but around the world, there's so many different beliefs around death and what's best for the soul. So some cultures believe in cremation. Some cultures are very against cremation. They believe in burial. Some traditions believe there's like Taoists, for example, have 49 days before they believe the soul is merging with the universe. Others have a week. Like there's so many different traditions culturally around the world around humans' death and things like that. Have you found that animals have a preference around what they prefer as their like final goodbye?
I have never got an answer. I must have spoken to about 4,000 plus animals now. Not even
Mm,
one animal has, shared their preference as to what it would mean
mhm,
to them.
mm, mhm,
Because again, they are very aware that this body is only having a spiritual experience. How,
mm,
like how we say we're not physical beings having spiritual experience, we're spiritual beings having physical experience, and
mm,
animals are very aware of that. When I communicate with animals who've crossed over, and I share that this is how a human being is broken. Uh, Tone, what do you want to be done now? And they're totally disconnected from that piece. Yes, there's a lot of empathy you will feel from the animal, but there is no understanding of, okay, why are you crying over my dead body? Doesn't make sense to me. I'm still here. I can still see you. What is your problem?
Right.
Like
Right.
for me also, one of my dogs, he was cremated. Another of my cat was buried.
Mm,
It is very much our own instinct,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
whatever feels right to you.
mm. And then this is like slightly off topic and could be somewhat controversial, but I do feel like I'm curious on your take on animals as food. And, I was raised a vegetarian. I firmly believe in that. But everybody has their own beliefs. I also see how in native cultures in the Amazon, native cultures around the world, they have so much reverence for the animal that they are about to eat, to use. They pray before they kill it. They use every part of the animal. They celebrate the animal's life. They thank God for that sacrifice. And it's such a sacred process. So I can see how it can go both ways. But then, in our current reality, there's also very horrible things, especially in the United States, involving animal agriculture, where they're abused horribly. And so what is going on with that? Like, and why would an animal choose to incarnate, like, for example, dairy cows? In India, they're revered, and here they're just absolutely treated horribly in certain farms and things like that, factory farming. So, what is the contract there, and your opinions on all of that?
So I am also, born into a family that only eats vegetarian food. So the
Hmm.
association with animals are food never really,
Hmm.
I never got that fact. But yes, there is a lot of acceptance in my heart for people who eat animals as food. And I know a lot of people are going to not like what I say. But yes, there has to be respect for everybody's preference. The reason the world we're living in right now, I think we're thriving on suffering. Like
Mm.
you said, the Amazonians have their own ritual before they kill an animal. There is no torture, there is no
No.
captivating an animal. You will only kill an animal when, okay, there is nothing available. Now we have to eat. Okay, this is the animal. One shot and it's done.
Hmm.
But the problem with the world now is that we're spending billions of dollars on capturing them, captivating them, and then breeding them and giving them a life which they don't deserve.
Hmm.
Nobody deserves to be living like that. Cows who can live for up to 15 years and now living a life of only 4 years.
I
And
know.
this is happening shockingly in India also, where there are now
Wow.
many factories and industries where they're following the culture that's going on in the US,
Mm.
where there is cow farming
Mhm.
and animal agriculture that is coming up. The more we get into this kind of an atmosphere, the more we see that Earth is burning up.
Yes.
Climate change, when we talk about it, animal agriculture is a big contributor to that. So instead of us hating each other, that, okay, meat eaters versus vegetarians or vegans, I think we need to understand that it has to be people versus manufacturing units
Yes.
and companies, or the big companies who are doing this to animals. Because if it was for any person, any meat eater, any sane person in their mind, they would never torture an animal to an extent where they see them suffering live, and now, okay, now it's been 4 years, now you can be killed. No person would do that. I read somewhere where they said if animal slaughterhouses had glass windows, and if
Yes.
they were built in places, yeah, where they're public, everybody would go vegetarian the next day.
100%. Well, not everybody, but
Most of them.
most. I think, yeah, there's obviously deeper issues going on when people do things like that. But yes, I agree. I agree. And I think it's just interesting. Because I'm thinking even like, in Alaska and these places where there is no food outside of maybe a whale that they have to actually hunt. But it's a village effort. There's so much reverence. It's used for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. The polar bears are used as their coats. It's very different. And I think if that had to be the case, where that was the only way you could eat your food, I think that would really change a lot. But maybe, and hopefully, the Earth's consciousness is shifting in a way where that will no longer be necessary. Because I do feel like we're in this time where all of this truth is coming out and all of the dark things that have been hidden are being brought to light. So that's
Yes,
like the perfect
yes,
example of, well, what if those walls became glass? What if, organizations and people started, because there's a lot of laws in the United States that protect these organizations from having even drone footage like overhead. So
yeah, yeah.
because they know like there's like there's so many protections around it because I believe exactly what you said is true. But we'll see. So so as a last question here, as your work with the with as an animal communicator, what do you feel that humans and everyone listening should know about animals in general that maybe they don't? And are there any last messages you'd like to share, like from the animal kingdom itself, for the people listening?
Such a beautiful question. Um, if we could only accept that one, of course, we're not the apex species, we are one of the species, one of the existing consciousness, not the only one. We do not control anything. And then you try to look at your animal at home or outside in the wild, whatever kind of interaction you're having with that animal, instead of being threatened or being in a position of power or control. If you can sit with, if we can sit with ourselves and just ask, okay, what is this animal trying to teach me? It's not a coincidence that you encounter, a different kind of species you were not expecting, or you have a dog or a cat or a bird at home. Of course, there is an elevated consciousness that's there around you. What is it that you can learn? What's going wrong now? I think we're doing the reverse. We're
Mm,
trying to train them, make them like us. Why? Because familiarity. Okay, you have to sit, you have to stand, the need to control. What if we let go of all of that?
mm,
What happens then? My grandmother used to never understand that why do you have animals at home?
mm,
And once I was so agitated, I asked her, what do you mean by that? They need a home. And then she said, no, because when I was younger, I practically had all kinds of animals around me. I used to cook around animals. So, and it used to be, outside my house
mhm,
where
mhm.
they would have a beautiful open kitchen.
Yeah.
So the concept of having animals, she used to feel we are captivating animals as pets. It's
Mm,
like, no, he needs to go out. He needs to live in the jungle.
mhm,
And
mhm,
that's when I realized, oh my God, what have we done to ourselves in the last 100 or 150 years? We have, we've literally convinced ourselves that I am doing a favor by bringing an animal at home.
mm,
I am making its life better. Yes, you may be in one or another way, but what the animal gives us is far more. It's like gold if only you start asking the questions, you know?
mhm.
And yeah.
It's interesting that you say that because I know, like online, there's a lot of debate around cats being indoor or outdoor. And there's like the indoor people that are like, oh, this is much better. They're safer, gives them better quality of life. And then there's the outdoor people that are like, what are you doing? They're animals. They need to be outside. They don't get the stimulation they need. And it's like I see both sides. So it's just funny that you're bringing this up. I do when you because you work with so many animals, do you find that certain cats just really love being outdoors, certain really like being indoors, and there's no like right way that a cat should be raised? It's more like according to the particular animal.
So see, that is slightly debatable. I'll tell you why. Because how the world, at least in India, the metro cities
Mm-hmm.
um, that we see are more concrete now. There is no
Hmm.
outside for them. There is literally nothing for them outside apart from vehicles
Right,
and
right, right,
big buildings. So what is it that they're going to do?
right.
But when I communicate with animals and ask them, do you want to be left out? Most of them say, I don't want to be left out, but I need to go out.
Hmm.
Just
Hmm.
like dogs, they need to go on a safari. So that's
Hmm.
when we have this whole conversation with the human being that where do you live in India? What is there around you? Can you take like a monthly vacation of about 2 to 3 days and have that side of your cat,
Hmm.
activated and let it experience the wild if it's possible?
Mm.
Because when you leave indoor cats out in a place like India with and the metro cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, it is very difficult for them to survive. There is no food.
Right. Yeah.
We're excessively cleaning all animals. So how are they going to survive? They don't eat plants, they don't eat trees. What's going to be there for them?
Birds. I mean, but yeah, but it's true. I mean, because, if you live in the city versus if you live in like in a suburban area where there's grass and lawns and things, I can see how it's different.
Yes.
But this was I love talking with you. I feel like we could go on for so much longer, but I don't want to take it too long. But so I also want to share that you do different types of sessions as well. So you don't only work with animals. So if you'd like to share a little bit about for the listeners hearing this, how they can work with you, your sessions for animals, and then also your other sessions available.
Sure. Yes. Primarily, I am an animal communicator, and I think no matter what I do, I will always be animal communicator first
Hmm.
because it's changed my life so dramatically. I also do Mokshpat board reading, which is an ancient Indian board reading where your questions about life, soul purpose, why am I here, what do I need to do in a particular relationship, a job, a business decision, all of those could be answered and it's more I call it roll a dice kind of a reading,
Hmm.
very intuitive. At the same time, the board itself is so charged. At the end it gives remedies, and the spine of the board is are our main chakras. So there is also a guidance then which chakra you need to work upon if
Mm.
something is going on in your life. I
Mm.
also do hypnotherapy sessions. These are guided hypnotherapy sessions and inner child healing and family constellations is something that I love. And it's a lot of deep work. I don't do it for everybody, but yes, it depends. If someone is grieving a lot, I wouldn't suggest a family constellation to them. A hypnotherapy session or an inner child in-depth session works really well for
And
them.
you also offer trainings, right, for animal communication.
Yes. Yes, for animal communication and for Mokshpat readings, there is an entire month-long course, and it's a live course which I offer.
Hmm.
So yes, currently as we're speaking, there are 5 people who are learning animal communication, and all of them, had a very different perspective of their own animals.
Mm.
Just through the course itself, you realize that you open yourself to an entire new realm. And a lot of life problems seem so easy when you become an animal communicator because now you have an ascended soul you can actually talk to about what's happening in my life.
I wish everybody would do some form of animal communication classes or
Yes.
lessons. I feel like the speciesism that we're talking about, where like one, like humans are above, as opposed to we're all the same, would change dramatically. And I think there would be so much like value, reverence, respect, understanding, and just there's already love, but there would be a difference of understanding of how like amazingly blessed we are to have these animals in our lives. So, thank you so much for the work that you do. I very much appreciate all of your answers. I thought it was fascinating and really, really profound. And how can people find you? Your website or Instagram? I found you on Instagram, and I'll link all of your information in the notes. But how can people find you and book a session with you?
Sure. So you can book a session on my website. That's themysticpurple.com. And my Instagram handle is also with the same name, The Mystic Purple. Or you can type my entire name, which is Aleesha Agarwa Goyal, and you'll find me on Instagram, Facebook. But yes, primarily people book sessions on my website.
Awesome. Well, I thank the Instagram gods and algorithm for connecting us because I don't even know. I just found you completely randomly. I think you popped up and I was like, she knows what she's doing. This is great. And so thank you so much for sharing all of your love for animals and your knowledge and wisdom from your practical experience. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I think this was the most, flawless and such a soulful, heart-to-heart kind of a conversation. I really loved it. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you. So, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I hope that you enjoyed the information as much as I did. She is such a beautiful source of wisdom and really speaks for the animals. And hopefully, some of the things that you heard today really lit up something in you with your appreciation for the animal kingdom and the beautiful animals in your life. So, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe to the Soul Awakening podcast. When you subscribe, you'll be notified of our new interviews and episodes that release every Friday. And you can also subscribe on YouTube here below, and you'll get that same notification. You can find all the episodes online on catfowler.com, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube now, and anywhere that podcasts are found. And for those of you that got this far, if you are a listener of the show, you get a special gift from me. If you're interested in doing an Akashic Records reading with me, you can get 10% off your very first session, and you can use the code SOULPOD, SOULPOD, for your very first reading. So, also, while you are listening, if you get a chance, if you can leave a review or comment, it really helps boost the show. And if you love the information that you heard today and it sparks something in you, feel free to share it with your friends and your family as well, and any animal lovers in your life. So, I'm your host, Kat Fowler, and thanks again for listening. And I'm wishing you lots of peace and love and joy and success in your week ahead. And I will see you on the next episode.